Hello, hello. It is time for UFC Sacramento predictions and the usual anti-betting rant here. Do not treat MMA as a path to financial freedom. Do not bet what you cannot lose, etc. If you don't know this by now, are you new here? I don't recommend massive amounts of betting. That being said, if you've got cash to burn, you get cash to burn. One of my viewers, Frank, made like 60 G's, I think it was, on the last card. So like, if you've got that kind of cash to burn, go for it. But most of us don't, is what I'm getting at. So let's talk about this fight card here, headlined by Hobocop and Fluffy Hernandez. This is a pretty interesting fight. It is a two true outcome fight, don't get me wrong, which generally is kind of boring, but it's entertaining regardless of how it goes. And it's, to be honest, actually kind of relevant either way it goes. So there is that. Hobocop has the tools that historically are a problem for Anthony Hernandez. He hits hard. He's aggressive. He can wrestle when he is actually focusing on his defensive wrestling. I remember watching the Roman Kopylov fight and being like, God damn, he's forgotten how to wrestle. And it's like, turns out, not really, just kind of like, it caught him by surprise. He's so offensively focused that his defense can sometimes badly suffer from that, both as a wrestler and as a striker. The thing is that against Fluffy Hernandez, I am assuming his entire camp is about defensive wrestling. So you've got Hobocop with this dangerous striking game comparatively. You've got Hernandez being very hittable comparatively. Not even comparatively, just straight up. Like there's really nobody in the UFC orbit that makes Fluffy Hernandez look like a competent defensive striker. There's no one. And basically the question is, does Hobocop finish Fluffy in the first two rounds? Either by striking. Submission is possible. I mean, Marcus Perez did submit him, so like it can be done. Perez has got to have one of the weirdest careers ever. There's a retrospective of Marcus Perez's career somewhere in the future. I've been thinking about this for a while, talking about fighters who are like forgotten gems of the UFC on weeks with no like fight card. You know, the weekend is void of a fight card. What do we do? There are various ideas floating around. I've always thought like, it'd be interesting to look back at like a fighter, not like a famous fighter, but like a fighter who is probably better than we honestly gave him credit for. Marcus Perez fits that role really well. Anyways, sidetracked there. Or Hernandez survives the early part where he is, in danger and progresses to the point where his lack of physicality doesn't matter as much because the opponent is tired. The opponent just doesn't want to wrestle with him anymore. Is kind of just done with life. And it's basically how every Fluffy Hernandez fight looks. Like there is really not a single exception to this. Maybe you could argue the Rodolfo Vieira fight, I guess. But like he's done it to Jung Young Park. Park was a bit more overmatched. But like this is the Josh Fremd fight. This is the Marc-Andre Barrio fight. This is the Edmund Shabazian fight. This is the Roman Kopylov fight. This is the Michel Pereira fight in a big way. The Brendan Allen fight. The Roman Dolidze fight. Again and again and again. Guys who started actually fairly okay against him, with a couple exceptions. Like I said, Jung Young Park was actually pretty outmatched right off the bat. Yeah. The wrestling pretty much worked pretty much immediately against Park. And the other one I could maybe think of is like, maybe it worked against Barrio. Yeah, I guess it worked pretty immediately against Barrio too. But realistically, he just keeps coming. Like he is the Terminator. He is the you can't kill this man. He is the zombie. And Sean Strickland stopped him. Kevin Holland stopped him. Marcus Perez submitted him. Those are all there. I forget. I forgot he beat Jordan Wright on the Dana White Contender Series and then tested positive for PEDs, right? I forget what the deal was with that. I now need to look that up. I now need to remember what happened. Why has he got a no contest with Jordan Wright? A fight that, if memory serves, he won. Yeah, Hernandez. Oh, it was a marijuana failed drug test. That's anticlimactic. Anyways, basically, if Rodrigues gets this job done early, he wins. If it goes to like the third round, I'm pretty much doomed and Fluffy Hernandez is going to win. I'm picking Rodrigues to win. He's the underdog, plus 140 to plus 170. Now, I will say the props are weird because the props have it like going over and like by sub. Sub maybe, I guess, but over? No. If this fight makes it to the third round, Fluffy is winning. Because at that point, Rodrigues will start falling apart. Because Hobocop is not a bad cardio fighter necessarily, but he's an inefficient fighter in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways. There we go. And if you fight Fluffy inefficiently, you will get tired. You will fall apart. You need that early stoppage. Or you need a way of like maintaining range. Sean Strickland showed kind of like the extra door that you can go with there, but that's not Hobocop's game. Hobocop's game is, I'm coming forward, I'm going to pressure you, I'm going to create car crashes. So that like plays right into the Hernandez wrestling attack. So I am going with Hobocop. I am taking the underdog. He's plus 140 to plus 170, minus 175 to minus 205 to Hernandez. I get it. I understand it. Fluffy, outside of losing to Sean Strickland, has been on a great run as of late. He was, before the loss to Sean Strickland, he was on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fight winning streak against like very reputable fighters. Maybe not at the beginning of that. Josh Fremd, Marc-Andre Barrio, and I guess in hindsight, Eben Shabazian are all fights that maybe don't age necessarily as well, because like we've kind of figured out that Shabazian is like a guy who falls apart, and then like Barrio's just kind of done, and Fremd is not good. Is Josh Fremd still in the UFC? Josh Fremd appears to not be in the UFC. He's in PFL now, right? He's actually picked up 2 wins. He's a massive dude, but yeah, there are limitations there. And then the Sean Strickland loss, and comparatively, Hobocop got rushed to kind of the top of cards, lost to Jared Cannonier, lost to Bruno Fajea, has still on a 3-fight winning streak against Fajea, Roman Kopylov, Jack Hermanson, Christian Leroy Duncan. Before the Cannonier fight, there was also a 3-win streak against CLD, Brad Tavares, Tia Lunin. So he's hot as well. But I do understand that Fluffy has like the high-end prospect. Not prospect. The high-end hype. There we go. Because Strickland then went on to win the title. So that loss looks much better in comparison. Sergey Spivak versus Vitor Petrino. Taking Petrino. Taking him by TKO. It's an athletic difference. Petrino has the athletic tools to be a very, very good heavyweight. He has the size. He has the power. He has the speed. I think actually at heavyweight he has found out that he is actually really fast. But it has to be said that at the same time, Vitor Petrino has been a guy who is very, very much a bully. And when fighters fight back against him, they have a level of success. I'm looking at a guy like Steven Asplund, who is not athletically on his tier, but is tough, is durable, keeps coming, and will mix in some offensive wrestling of his own and some clinch work of his own, which is a problem because Spivak will absolutely do that. And he still won that fight. He still got the job done. But realistically, Asplund had a lot of success. And Spivak can absolutely be a tough game guy. But I'm looking at Spivak's resume here, and his wrestling-heavy style has worked against maybe 2 guys I would consider to be solid athletes. Like solid explosive athletes, I should say. And it's Derek Lewis. Enough said. And it's Greg Hardy. Enough said. Otherwise, it's losing to Jailton Almeida, losing to Waldo Cortez Acosta, losing to Cyril Gahn, losing to Tom Aspinall, losing to Walt Harris back in the day. Otherwise, it's guys with specifically good physical attributes, like Antidelia's got really, really fast hands, but has problems everywhere else. And then guys like Marcin Tybura, who's famously not athletic, Augusto Sakai, famously not athletic, Alexei Olenek, great grip strength, great crushing power, but otherwise just not really a functional fighter. Jared Van Der Raa, not really a functional fighter. Carlos Felipe, not really a functional fighter. That was an alarmingly close fight. Tai Tuivasa, who has all kinds of wrestling issues. And Petrino does not have those problems. So if Spivak goes out there and he starts taking Petrino down, believe me, I think he'll win because I don't trust Petrino to fight behind the 8 ball against a persistent wrestling threat. But I'm just not convinced that actually happens. I think he gets hit by a lot of strikes. I think Petrino's speed is there. And Spivak's striking has gotten better, but it is still not good. So Petrino, TKO. His cardio is weird. It's both good and bad at the same time, which is puzzling. But Spivak's a plus 120 to plus 140 underdog, minus 148 to minus 175 on Petrino. Makes sense. Reiner de Ritter versus Roman Dolidze is a... There are 2 fights on this card that are just absolute travesties. They'll be fun, but they're tragedies. And this is the first of them. Reiner de Ritter versus Roman Dolidze at 205. They're both former 185ers, so size is not going to be a really big deal. Both of them going up in weight doesn't really, I think, fix anything for them. Like, don't get me wrong, Reiner de Ritter's been telling some, or at least his team has been telling some horror stories about what the weight cut takes out of him. So, like, maybe 205 is in that regard a good idea. But he is a guy whose abilities are a lot about strength and clinch control. And that's going to be harder to get at 205. That being said, 205 will have a lot worse grapplers. There is that. Roman Dolidze, kind of the same deal. Like, the best parts of his game are his clinch control and his sudden explosive grappling. You know, again, the Jack Hermanson fight. Oh my lord. Such a fun time. But Dolidze's on a really rough streak here. Losing to Anthony Hernandez and to Christian Leroy Duncan in just sad performances. Even the win over Marvin Vettori and over Kevin Holland and over Anthony Smith. These are all so sad. Vettori's done. Smith is done. Holland shouldn't be at 185 and was injured. If I recall correctly, that was the rib injury. And then before that, losing to Imavov and Vettori. And then, like, we're back at 2022 when he beat Jack Hermanson via, like, awesome ground and pound while having a calf slicer for, like, a relevant win for Roman Dolidze. It's just kind of sad. Dolidze has no backing up footwork. He has no footwork in general. He has no range striking game really to speak of. So Reiner de Ritter is going to come forward and find the clinch. And if Dolidze can stop him dead in the clinch, fine, he'll probably win. But if de Ritter gets the clinch and does what he does to most people, which is put them on their back, take them down, out-grapple them, probably work them to the body, he's going to win. And I'm going to go with Reiner de Ritter. I'm going to go with Reiner de Ritter by decision because Dolidze has, to my reckoning, not been finished in the way that de Ritter would do it. He got finished by Fluffy Hernandez, but that was one in a 4th round of a fight. We don't have a 4th round here. And through persistent, like, breaking down grappling, which is not what Reiner de Ritter does. In fact, we've seen the opposite happen to him in that fight with Brendan Allen. Otherwise, it's losing decisions to Nassourdine Imavov, Marvin Vettori, and Trevor Giles. So, probably the best grappler he's ever fought. So, like, if he gets submitted, not going to be shocked, but I'm not going to pick it. Odds-wise, Reiner de Ritter is the favorite, minus 400 to minus 440. A bit too wide. Plus 295 to plus 340 on Dolidze. I just wouldn't have, like, a minus 400 de Ritter at any point because the guy's only way of winning is so documented. It's so there that realistically it shouldn't feel like minus 400. Markel Medeiros versus Mason Jones. I want to acknowledge first up here that Medeiros has a really solid upside. He's fast, he's strong, he has nice low kicks, he has good fundamentals trained into him. But he needs to find a nice middle ground between this very predictable striking that he sometimes exhibits, where, like, it's very, very clean technique, but at the same time, there's like 1 or 2 looks in it. It's very easy to work around. Or like Tony Ferguson style looping bullcrap that gets him into trouble and causes him to have, like, close fights with guys like Austin Hubbard. I'm just saying. He's the kind of guy that you could give a combination tree to, and it's like the first 2 would be like, oh, those are nice and clean. And then by the 3rd one, you're like, why are you breaking down? 4th one, why is this getting worse? And then by the 5th one, you're like, what are you doing? What are you even doing on this heavy bag? And as a result, I tend to think I want to take any functional, reasonably athletic fighter in the UFC. And I haven't had many opportunities to make that pick because His fights so far have been against pretty easy competition. Austin Hubbard, who's not athletic. Mark Choinsky, not athletic. Landon Quinones, not athletic. So it allowed him to build that 3-0 record. And then the draw with Chris Padilla that he's coming off of, which he should have lost, in my opinion. Because I scored all three of those rounds for Padilla. There was a point deduction, of course. But I scored all three of those rounds for Padilla. I could see the fourth one, or the third one, going to Medeiros. I could understand that one. It was very, very close. A 49-43 in strikes landed in favor of Padilla. But I guess what this is all leading up to is I'm picking Mason Jones because Mason Jones is a functional UFC fighter. He has limitations. He's not a phenomenal athlete for 155, but he's big. He's tough. Like, he gets knocked down and stuff, but he does get back up. Also, 69.5-inch reach for Medeiros. What is that? What is that? You're 5'10". I'm confused. Jones is a guy who can, like, it's very similar to the Blagioki fight, where, like, yes, Mason Jones is at an athletic disadvantage. Yes, Mason Jones will be in danger because he often gets clipped very early in fights and gets hurt and has to recover, but he is very good at that. And I don't trust Medeiros to actually follow up on that at all. So Mason Jones, because he has that dog in him, he has the ability to go forward, to aggress, to handle the fact that the opponent is faster than him, and that on its own does not break him. He does not go out there and be like, like Mark Choinsky was a great example of this. Watch that Medeiros fight with Mark Choinsky. Choinsky's broken from like the first minute in, where he's just like, I don't know how to fight fast, explosive, dynamic man. I don't know how to do this. Jones does. He'll put the volume on you. He'll put the 1-2s on you. He'll work behind the jab. He'll mix the wrestling in if need be. If the wrestling's not working, fine, whatever. He'll still use it as a distraction, so on. It's just, he's just a better fighter than Medeiros. Medeiros is a better athlete and has the chance to dynamically finish Mason Jones, obviously, and has the higher ceiling. Because if Medeiros could find that middle ground between predictable and creative, he'll be fine. He'll be dope. He'll be dynamite. I just don't count on it. Because realistically, I should have seen some improvements after the split decision win over Hubbard, and it's not happening. The wake-up call has not been registered. Now, mind you, maybe drawing with Padilla does that. We'll see. Jones by decision, he is a minus 275 to minus 350 favorite, to plus 210 to plus 275 on Medeiros. Carly Judice, Yasela Chavez. I don't have much to say about this one. I don't have much to dress up here. Chavez had a competitive fight with Eunice Dubin in her UFC debut, and Duden is quite bad. And that's not even an MMA math thing of Judice blew Duden out of the bottom. Duden just is bad. And from that, I can say Chavez has got heart. She's got scrap. She's tough. She's not a terrible athlete. She's got decent size for the division. But I don't know. There's just not really. She's 29. Like I think if she was 23, I would probably have a lot more patience for this. Even like 25. But she's 29. She's showing up at the UFC, having fought basically nobody. Because if I recall her record, her resume is incredibly padded. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not wrong here. 0-4, 0-0, 0-4, 0-0, 0-2, 0-2, 6-1. That was her Dana White Contender Series fight with Sofia Montenegro, who herself has a very padded record as well. And then the victory over Duden, which was a split decision. Again, split decisions with Montenegro and Duden, like the only two even capable fighters she's faced. She's gone to splits with. Judice is also very green. She's only 6-2, which seems like very low, but the losses are to, she got to Contender Series having fought very little. Like her 3 wins were 1-8, 1-3, 3-3. And she'd finished them all in the first round by strikes. And then she gets the Contender Series, loses to Ernesta Caracate. But one of the best fights you're going to find on Contender Series, and Ernesta Caracate is actually really good. And then she loses to Gabriela Hernandez, who is not great, but she's very physical, very strong, very, very, very top of the food chain. And then she knocks out Duden, she beats Nicole Cagliari, and she beats Juliana Miller. And those 3 fights feel a lot more like Chavez. Should be fun, should be action-packed. I am Slightly amazed that Judice has come out of the gym that otherwise has produced Aaron Phillips, because someone at that gym is giving her really good coaching and she's absorbing it like a sponge and becoming a much better striker. She does not have great power. She does not have great speed. She does not have great physical attributes. She's not like a super low rent athlete, but she's not a high rent athlete. And that will cost her. Like, that puts a ceiling above her. But it requires someone to actually be either good or be like that really, really stupid level athlete, like a Gabriela Fernandez. So, Judice, decision. TKO is a possibility, but Chavez has never been finished. Judice does not have great power despite a couple of finishes. Her finishes are much, much more about the opponent than her. And she's a minus 530 to minus 625 favorite. I don't know about that. I would not touch that. Plus 360, plus 455 on Chavez. Anthony Wint versus Terrence Chapman. This is a setup fight for Wint. There are some concerns about Wint. He's 5'11", 235-ish. He played professional football for the New York Jets, and he was on the Hamilton Tiger Cats, which I did not know, which should tell you something because I'm a big Tiger Cat fan. And the answer is he didn't play a single down for us. But aside from the size issue and the fact that he is very green, he's a very, very solid athlete. He's partnered up with Killcliff, so I expect that he will actually learn stuff because I have faith in Killcliff to take a green fighter and actually make them better. And Terrence Chapman is not good. Chapman has all the same problems that Wint does, just with bigger size and not with the athletic background. So sure, there's a problem there. There's concerns. But and they actually have an opponent in common in Omar Al-Shallah, and it was Chapman who beat him worse than Wint. But I am going with Wint by TKO. That being said, stay away from this betting line. Minus 872 to minus 1430, plus 600 to plus 800. Stay away from it. Jamal Emmers versus Lariani Douglas. I am cheering for Jamal Emmers. He is the better technical fighter. He is the more UFC level guy. He is actually like legitimately good. And unfortunately, his UFC run has just been underappreciated, I think, is honestly the word I would use to describe it. Because, like, dude, here's the run. Shows up at the UFC, loses to Giga Chikadze. Fine. That's no biggie. Beats Vince Cachero. Gets heel hooked by Pat Sabatini. Who cares? Beats Kushin Akshaba, who ends up being just like fraudulent as all hell. And then lost to Jack Jenkins by split decision. Beats Dennis Bajukia, loses to Nate Landwehr. Beats Gabriel Miranda, who's pretty decent. And beats Hyder Emil. This is a good run. And there's like no hype around it. You might sense the butt coming. The butt is Lariani Douglas, despite being someone who is not necessarily a particularly good, put-together technical fighter. Not the textbook, not what you would recommend, not what you would construct in a lab, but with ridiculous power and ridiculous speed and explosiveness and dynamicism. So you would design the athlete in a laboratory. You just wouldn't design the fighter in a laboratory. The other problem is Emmers does have some defensive deficiencies and does tend to start slow. So Lariani Douglas to catch him and obliterate him in brutal knockout fashion. Brain trauma causing fashion. Douglas by TKO, really a knockout. He's a minus 361 to minus 420 favorite. I will be betting on the underdog though here. 290 plus 295 to plus 320 on Emmers. That's a little offensive. Lariani Douglas's only win in the UFC, and I believe his only win of really note is a aging and like fading out Julian Erosa. Like his win on Contender Series was against Cam Teague, who's just not good. And then like I guess he does have a win over Javier Reyes, doesn't he? And Reyes is in the UFC. Yeah, it is that guy. But I also think Javier Reyes is not very good except for being big and athletic. He recently got arm triangled by Con Offley, if you'll recall. And then, like, the loss to Isaac Thomas, lost to James Gonzalez, Chepe Mariscal, etc. There are plenty of, like, Jamal Emmers level fighters who have beat him. It's just Emmers starts slow and Douglas starts fast. And Douglas hits really goddamn hard. Speaking of slow starters, Kenny Yanzekishu, Shamil Gaziev, And Zekachu is a slow starter. Again, he's got the size. He's 6'5", 83-inch reach. He's got the athletic ability. He's got a lot of the technical aspects, actually, to be pretty decent. His grappling is not bad. His striking is not bad. Once he finds the flow of the fight, it's all pretty okay. The problem is Gatziev really doesn't need that warm-up time, and Zekachu does. So, is there a chance that Zekachu can just absorb the early punishment? I suppose so. He's done it against some people, but like if you look at the list of the guys that Zekachu has beaten after, starting slow, it is a lot of guys who are just not renowned for being particularly hard hitters. It is Marcus Buchecha, who he drew with. It is Lucas Bresky, pretty much the bottom of the barrel in terms of athleticism. It's Chris Barnett, who is tiny. It's Devin Clark, who is not a finisher. It's Ion Kudalaba, who self-destructs. It's Carl Roberson, who is comically undersized. It's Danilo Marquez. It admittedly is Carlos Ulberg. He did beat Carlos Ulberg. He did survive the early problems with Carlos Ulberg. There is that. But like, if you look at the guys who are like Gatziev, it's guys like Ovince St. Preux. It's guys like Dustin Jacoby. It's guys like Dawoon Jung. Guys who can actually hurt him, can actually brutalize him, can actually win. If he can get it going, he will win this fight because Gatziev is not good and does not have good cardio either. And Zekachu does. But I'm taking Gazeev to powerball over him and TKO him pretty early. Again, this is another one that the betting odds have going late. If it's going late and Zekachu's winning, I don't know what to tell you. So Gazeev by TKO is my pick. Minus 137 to minus 150 on Gazeev. Plus 110 to plus 125 on Zekachu. Nasrat Haqparast versus the aforementioned Chris Padilla. Disclaimer here, I have not had a good prediction record on Padilla's fights. I got the last one right. I didn't because it was a draw, but I've been picking against him because his style is just kind of awkward and kind of relies on people melting. He has a really good wrestling game that he doesn't really get to, and his striking is very awkward. My brain does not enjoy it. There you go. That's the answer. And he's up against Nasrat Haqparast, who has flaws, but it's only really lost to like really, really, really good fighters. Like we're talking like Dan Hooker. We're talking like Quillen Salkild. We're talking like King Green. You see where I'm going with this? Haqparast is a good boxer. He fights at a good pace. He doesn't have Medeiros' problems of like just being pressured backwards. He's a good counter wrestler. He's a good wrestler in his own right. It is generally just never lost to this level of guy. And that's kind of what I'm going with here. That Padilla is kind of awkward. And realistically, Padilla is not that dissimilar to some people that Haqparast has beaten even recently. Like Esteban Ribovic, for example. Or, to a degree, Landon Quinones. Like, and Rafa Garcia. Like, there are elements of Padilla that are better. Like, he's a better athlete than all of these, except for maybe Ribovic, and he's a better wrestler than Ribovic. So there is that in play. But it feels like there's the obvious like dichotomy here of like Haqparast beats the guys who don't belong here or are lower card, and then if you beat him, it's because you're on to bigger things. You are Dan Hooker. You are King Green. You are Drew Dober. You are Quillen Salkild. And we've had 9 years of this. I don't think Padilla is that guy. And I'm picking Haqparast by decision. Haqparast is the slight favorite, minus 110 to minus 124. Minus 110 to plus 100 on Padilla. I will be betting on Haqparast. I think he'll be part of a parlay, probably. Mauricio Barbosa versus Ryan Coos. Barbosa, knockout early. Don't care. Coos is not that good. I don't know why he's here, and I don't know why he's getting to skip the Dana White Contender Series, because realistically speaking, this was not a late notice replacement as far as I can tell. I know he's linked to the Goat Shed. That's fine. They're like not a bad gym. They're Jillian Robertson's gym, actually. I think that's right. Yeah. Robertson, Hector Lombard's there, Des Bajukia, like they've got a bunch of people, Alberto Montez, but these are not good enough for you to take like 9-2 Ryan Coos, who's lost to Cameron Smotherman and had a competitive fight with Kevin Natividad, who is a UFC washout and a bad UFC washout. Like, he lost to Miles Johns, Danon Batcherel, and Ricky Tercios. What are we doing? And then took time off and lost and was bullying Ryan Coos until he got kicked in the balls. I just don't. He's not terrible. He's not shockingly bad or anything. But like, he's a bantamweight fighting at featherweight. Barboza is a wrecking ball. Barboza's super powerful. I don't understand this booking because Barboza's coming off a win over Denis Bajukia, who is a teammate of Ryan Coos's. And for some reason, Bajukia got a fight with Bogdan Grad, which feels much more like what the winner of that fight should have gotten. But whatever. Barboza by knockout. The odds are prohibitive. Minus 791 to minus 1667, plus 500 to plus 850. Then we have Gage Young versus the actual short notice replacement, Stanley Dorsonville. I like Dorsonville. I like him a lot. He is aggressive. He puts it on the front foot. He wrestles pretty well. He strikes offensively pretty well. I do have questions about the defense. The hands are a little bit low. There's a lot of openings there. And the control on the ground is not spectacular. So there is definitely something to work with here, but he's 26 years old. He can improve. He's a good athlete. I expect improvements. But his level of opposition has been kind of low. He has gone out there and basically just taken the front foot against a bunch of people who were unable to in any way get the front foot back from him, unable to establish anything, and eventually just got crushed. Gage Young, I do not know how good he is. I still don't know where he fits. But he fights at a good pace, and he does not get crushed. He strikes me as a non-crushable guy. He fought Quillen Salkild, did not get crushed. Lost the fight, had 3 very competitive rounds with Quillen Salkild. Very nice, very solid. Then he fought Evan Elder, lost that fight. Evan Elder's not a bad fighter. Don't know really where he went, but that's it. Mahashate, Thiago Moises, beat them. Granted, those wins say more about them than they do really about him, which is my predominant issue. He's looked good in losses, but not necessarily... The wins don't necessarily tell me where he's going. But Young... Like I said, I just don't expect Young to give up the front foot and not have any way to get back on the front foot. And I have trust him to fight on the back foot in a way that I don't trust Dorsonval to fight on the back foot. So I am going to have to go with Gage Young. But if Dorsonville wins, that's dope. That's awesome. This guy is this guy has the potential to be something special. I just don't think he is that something special yet. And maybe his athleticism, his dynamism will be a problem on short notice. That being said, Gage Young was planning to fight Cody Steele, and it's not that Cody Steele and Dorsonval are the same guy or anything, but like the fundamental aspects of the fight, the focuses, the primaries are kind of the same. So Gage Young by decision is my pick. He's minus 138 to minus 160. Dorsonval is plus 110 to plus 135. He is a very bettable underdog. Do not necessarily stay away from that. And then we have the second absolute trash fire fight of the night, Jackson McVeigh, Wes Schultz. I am picking Schultz because he's the underdog, and I'm picking him by submission. Both of these guys can get submitted. Both of these guys are defensively deficient. Both of these guys are kind of gas heavy. Both of these guys are kind of really used to winning by overwhelming the other guy by being big, and they have the same reach here. I guess Jackson McVeigh is taller, and McVeigh has a better clinch game, so maybe McVeigh beats him up with the clinch, but like, I don't know. I don't want to pick either of these guys as a favorite, like, ever. It's not that they can't win, because they've got that dog in them, and they've got that submission game in them, and they will try really hard, and they will be aggressive, but like, we also know that UFC level fighters just kind of beat them. And that's really all there is to it. And I don't want to see them fighting each other. Schultz has done, I guess, slightly better because he's lost at least to Mansour Abdul Malik and Damian Pinas, who, despite Abdul Malik's problems, is like still really solid prospects. McVeigh got crushed by Zach Reese. That's Not great. And he does win points, though, for knocking down and submitting Rodrigues Dumas. I will take that, because Rodrigues Dumas is terrible. And still in the UFC. He's fighting Mickey Gall, apparently. What the hell? And then I don't... betting odds. Minus 175 to minus 188 on McVeigh. Plus 143 to plus 150 on Schultz. Again, strictly picking Schultz because he's the underdog. If McVeigh wins, and if McVeigh crushes him, I'm not going to be shocked. Why Schultz is not good. It's just McVeigh is also not good. They're fun, but they're not good. They remind me of Craig from the Discord server. Shout out, Craig. I love you, Craig. I love you, Squidly Man. But you and I both know what I feel about your fighting style as a civilian. It's dumb. Anyways, Chanel Dyer versus Elise Reed. Again, not really a fight I'm looking forward to or particularly hyped for, because Elise Reed is someone I'm surprised won any fights in the UFC. She's not big. She's not athletic. She's not well-rounded. She's good at one thing, and it's ranged kicking. And really feels like her opponents should have been able to solve this. And most of them have, and I expect Chanel Dyer will be one of them. But somehow she still beat Corey McKenna, Jessica Penne, Jinyu Fry, Melissa Martinez. Somehow. I really don't know. I believe that this is one of the few fighters who has lasted 8 fights in the UFC with me never picking for them. I'd have to go back in time. Maybe I picked her against Fry, because I fundamentally don't trust the incredibly low output nature of Jinyu Fry. I do not trust that. So I might have picked her against Fry. But I know I didn't pick her against Loma. I know I didn't pick her against Sam Hughes. I know I didn't pick her against Corey McKenna. I know I didn't pick her against Jessica Penne, even though Penne was old. I didn't pick her against Denise Gomes. Maybe Melissa Martinez? I have no faith in Melissa Martinez. But Dyer fights at a good pace. She has a good kicking game of her own. She actually has the reach advantage here. She has 2 inches of reach and 3 inches of height. She is someone who can wrestle. It's a secondary game, but it is there. So, ironically... well, there's an irony here that I'll get to, but realistically, she should be able to compete with Reed at range. If she can't, she should be able to cut the cage off and get her down, because Reed has been not that hard to get to the ground and kind of just dominate and finish. Ironically, if Reed starts winning the fight, I think that triggers her conditions to getting finished, because then Dyer will probably want to grapple her. And that's been a bad thing for Reed. But I've got Dyer by decision. Reed is someone who's been finished in all of her fights. It's just the manner in which she gets finished is just not how I expect Dyer to fight her. Sam Hughes finished her from the ground with ground and pound. Jar Eubanks did the same. Lupe Godinez, rear naked choke. Denise Gomes knocked her down and finished her with ground and pound. So I guess that is on the table. But Denise Gomes is one of the few actually pretty big hitters at 115. It's bizarre because she's 5'2" and doesn't look like she should hit hard, but she does. The proof do be in the pudding, because she has a bunch of finishes. It's not just knocking out Elise Reed. It's knocking out Yasmin Hauergui, knocking out Bruna Brazil, and legitimately hurting other fighters, including Tisha Pennington. So, yeah. By the way, good luck to Denise Gomes in her next fight with Jan and Jan. I'll be picking Jan. But that's the fight card. Betting odds. Prohibitive favorite here. Dyer's minus 791 to minus 1250. I'm staying away from it. Plus 500 to plus 700 on Reed. Staying away from it. Maybe there's a prop that could be interesting there or whatever. But that is, I think, about it. Anyways, I will see you after the fights. Check out the links down below for my video gaming stuff, the Discord server, all that jazz, social medias as well. And yeah, I started up a new video gaming series over on YouTube with Battletech from Harebrained Schemes. It's an old game, but it's a goodie. And I hope you will take a time to enjoy it. Have a good one. Enjoy the fights. It's not a bad card. There are 2 trash fire fights in there, but it's not a bad card.